In Tobolsk, Nicholas eventually heard of the disintegration of his Russia. The tutor Gilliard, still part of the household, saw the intensity of the effect it had on him.
I then for the first time heard the Tsar regret his abdication. It now gave him pain to see that his renunciation had been in vain. I frequently heard Nicholas muttering, "Disgrace, suicide for Russia, and to think that they called Her Majesty a traitor."
The family had now spent more than 6 months as prisoners in Tobolsk, in the shadow of its ancient Kremlin and cathedral. New, harsher guards had taken over, and Alexandra and her daughters secretly sewed into their bodices all that was left of the Romanov riches, their jewelry.
I make everything now. I am knitting stockings for Alexei. His father's trousers are torn and darned, the girls' underlinen all in rags. I am sad because they are allowed no walks except in front of the house, inside the high fence. But at least they have fresh air, and we are grateful for anything.
I would say that the Romanovs' fate was sealed from the moment that the Bolsheviks came to power. The new regime seized power in what was a coup d'etat. The Bolshevik regime then went on to sign the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk with Germany and signed away everything that Russia had gained for 300 years. Having done that, civil war was a certainty. And once you had civil war, Lenin and his party were going to react ruthlessly. I think at that point, there was no hope for the Romanovs. They were bound to die.
On top of everything, Alexei, now nearly 14 years old, was to suffer another serious bout of hemophilia. He would never walk again.
He is frightfully thin and yellow. I sit with him all day. Yesterday, he said to me, "Mama, I would like to die. I am not afraid of death, but I am so afraid of what they will do to us here."
In late April 1918, the Bolshevik High Command, now established in the Kremlin in Moscow, issued new orders. The Romanovs were told to get ready to leave, but not where they were going. Across the road from the governor's house lived the Tsar's much reduced retinue, including Dr. Bortkin, the family physician, and his daughter Tanya. Shortly before Easter, a small gift arrived for Tanya, and with it, a note.
It is dated 1918 and signed O.R. Olga Romanov, Easter 1918. Just a few days before their departure for Ekaterinburg, 3 months before their death.
Christ has risen. My dear Tanya, here are 2 eggs from all of us. It's very sad we can't all be together. With fondest kisses, Olga Romanov.
Under guard, Nicholas and his family were sent on yet another exhausting journey. En route, their train was hijacked by a band of hardened revolutionaries. Their new wardens took them to the town of Ekaterinburg in the Urals. They arrived on April 18, 1918, and were installed in the former house of a merchant named Ipatiev. It was renamed the House of Special Purpose. Nobody knows for sure whether the family realized their fate. There were rumors of escape plans, but it is now known that they were spread deliberately by the Bolsheviks. Lenin, in his Kremlin citadel, faced enemies on all sides. The White Army was threatening Ekaterinburg, and the German Kaiser, Alexandra's cousin, was now expressing concern for the safety of his relatives. Enter Yakov Yurovsky, the Romanovs' new warden. One summer day, he was seen wandering in the forest. He and his cronies located an abandoned mine shaft. They bought drums of gasoline and sulfuric acid. They arranged for a truck. Back at the Ipatiev house, Alexandra continued to write in a diary which had been given to her by her daughter Tatiana.
To my sweet darling Mama dear, with my best wishes for a happy new year, may God's blessings be with you and guard you forever. Your own loving girl, Tatiana.
The 46-year-old Alexandra dated her diary through to the end of the summer, but the last entry is on July the 16th.
Grey morning after lovely sunshine. Tatiana started to read from the prophet Obadiah. Though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord. Played bezique with Nicholas. 10:30 to bed. 15 degrees.
At 1:30 a.m. on July 17th, the family was woken up by Yurovsky and told to prepare to move once again. They were led into a small basement room. There, the 11 prisoners, the family and a small retinue, were suddenly confronted by 11 armed men. There had only been time for incoherent exclamations. Both Yurovsky and one of the guards, Medvedev, recorded in legal depositions their versions of what had happened.
Pavel Medvedev. All the members of the Tsar's family were lying on the floor, very severely wounded. The blood was running in streams.
Yakov Yurovsky. I myself killed Nicholas point blank. Alexandra Fyodorovna died immediately. Alexei and 3 of his sisters were still alive. We had to finish them off. We tried to bayonet one of the girls, but the bayonet would not penetrate her corsage. We undressed the girl and found a corset torn in places by bullets, through which diamonds could be seen.
Pavel Medvedev. The heir to the throne was still alive and mourning a little. Yurovsky fired 2 or 3 times at him. Then the air was still.
This telegram to the bosses in Moscow announced in a prearranged code that the whole family was dead.
Nicholas has been shot and his family sent to a safe place.
The bodies of the Romanov family were taken by truck to the mine, hacked to pieces, soaked in sulfuric acid, burned on a bonfire, and then thrown down the shaft. But Yurovsky worried that his efforts had been rather too public. The next night, in deepest secrecy, the fragments of skeleton and burnt flesh were exhumed and buried elsewhere. For half a century, the Romanovs and their mortal remains would disappear. The White Army took Ekaterinburg within a week of the assassination. They had no doubts about what had happened. And the Tsar's family was not alone. Every Romanov the Bolsheviks could find, they murdered. Nicholas's brother Michael, 9 uncles and cousins, and Alexandra's sister Ella, 18 Romanovs in all. For years, it was debated what part, if any, Lenin had played in ordering the execution of Nicholas and his family. Long secret Bolshevik papers have now revealed the following.
Lenin, Trotsky, and
Sverdlov worked out this very cunning plan, empowering the Ekaterinburg Soviet to liquidate the family, using as a pretext all sorts of fabricated plots, attacks, and attempts to rescue them. And I have documentary proof of this. For example, Goloshokin, head of the Ekaterinburg Soviet, went to Moscow twice just before the killings. Twice he was in Moscow for instructions, for meetings with Lenin, Sverdlov, and others. It was all pre-planned. The foul act of annihilating Nicholas II was not accidental.
The local Bolsheviks appeared to have carried out the murders on their own initiative, but it now seems clear that it was on orders from Lenin. Lenin took great care, however, to hide the truth, even from his ambassador to Berlin, Adolf Ioffe.
In 1918, when my father was Soviet ambassador in Berlin, he received a communication down the line from Moscow that the former Tsar, Nicholas II, had been shot. He asked, "And what about the family?" He got no reply, and somehow the question was hushed up. And when Dzerzhinsky, head of the secret police, passed through Berlin, father leant on him and said, "Why did you not reply to my queries when everyone was asking me, from the Kaiser down, all Alexandra's relatives, you know?" Dzerzhinsky replied, "It was a special order from Lenin." He said, "Let Ioffe be told nothing. It will be easier for him to lie about it there in Berlin."
For over half a century, Lenin and his lies held sway. No one even knew where the remains of the Imperial family were buried, until 1979, when years of private and top-secret research pinpointed a certain submerged bridge not far from the original mine.
One morning, at the beginning of May, we came here at 6 o'clock when there was no one around. We removed a few planks and immediately, buried not very deep, we found some human remains.
There were several of us when we found the remains. We were all in a state of shock. It was terrible. It was really frightening, because the remains were mutilated by sulfuric acid, and the bones were all black and green. This heap of bones filled us with horror.
We were lucky in that we found 3 skulls almost immediately. We covered everything up straight away, but kept the skulls with us, as we wanted to have them identified.
Identification was to become the key issue. In 1991, the remains were exhumed yet again, officially. But 2 skeletons were missing. So were these bones truly those of the last Tsar and his family? The latest DNA analysis would provide the answer by comparing the Romanov bones with tissue from living relatives. Exactly 100 years to the day after the accession of Nicholas II to the Romanov throne, Queen Elizabeth II of Britain visited the Peter and Paul fortress, traditional burial place of all the other Romanov Tsars. It was the Queen's husband, Prince Philip, one of the closest living relatives of both Nicholas and Alexandra, who gave the crucial blood sample for DNA comparison. After exhaustive testing and squabbling, the results proved with 99% accuracy that the remains are indeed those of some of the Romanovs. One daughter and the son have not been accounted for, So rumors of Romanov surviving the assassination live on, however unlikely. Even the DNA results failed to convince the Russian Church to consecrate the remains, however, because Nicholas's skull was not tested. They forbade burial until still further tests were complete.